Oh yeah, girl, I want orange juice too. I don't know about you, but I was a pretty strange kid. Like most strange kids, I did enjoy Five Nights at Freddy's and Bendy and the Ink Machine, but my favorite weird kid mascot horror game was Tattletail by far. This could be because I had Furbies. I had like 5. My parents absolutely hated them. Or maybe just because it was the first horror game my scaredy cat 11-year-old self worked herself up to play. But whatever it was, I loved it. Tattletail is pretty underrated, I'd say. Big YouTubers played it, yeah, but it's a short game and it lacked updates or massive marketing pushes. It went under the radar pretty quickly. Now I play it every Christmas, and this year's run inspired me to make this video expressing just why I think this game is so great. Plus, I feel like we're maybe seeing a resurgence of it. There's a few videos posted about it in the last few months, including this one. Like, what is this? Is this a fan remake? I hope? I couldn't find anything about it, but a fan remake would be so cool. But anyways, it's the most I've seen in years. I could just be totally delusional, but a Tattletail resurgence would heal me. So, without further ado, let's start with this. What is Tattletail? Released in December 2016, Tattletail is a 5-night survival horror game. Created by Waygetter Electronics, which is an in-universe toy company, but also an indie studio created specifically for this game by Ben Esposito. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I am so sorry if I'm not. The game is pretty heavily inspired by the 90s virtual pet craze, with toys like Furby and Tamagotchi being the inspiration for Tattletail. 5 nights before Christmas, the player, who is a young child, sneaks into the basement to open their present early. The gift turns out to be a cute little baby talking Tattletail, which is just like a Furby, but somehow more annoying. I mean, those little shits are so annoying. Until Christmas, the player is given different tasks each night, and while doing these, you have to keep Tattletail quiet by feeding it, grooming it, and allowing it to charge. In later nights, the player must avoid the mysteriously recalled toy, Mama Talking Tattletail, by staying quiet when she's near. There are gift eggs that the Tattletails have laid across the map, and over the course of the game, if you get all of them, that's the only way to get the good end, and the golden flashlight, but I'll go over that later. So, we start December 20th, 1998. You, the player, are a nosy bitch-ass kid who wakes up in the middle of the night to open your Christmas present early. The present is the new fad toy, a baby talking Tattletail, which is like a Furby, but with Tamagotchi needs. You got a purple one, and you play with it briefly, which you're literally supposed to feed him human food. Imagine the mold, the smell, the waste of money! But then you put him back and into his box and go back to bed, ignoring the now cracked open front door and the phone ringing in the kitchen. That's if you listen to directions. If you don't and you pick up the phone, there's screeching, grinding, and breathing in the background. Yikes. The music gets intense immediately on night 1, and the tips and warnings are pretty cryptic, so a sense of dread and fear is built really quickly, and it's really effective to make you anxious because nothing threatening happens yet, but the game certainly promises it will. On night 2, the player wakes up to a clunking noise that is not his parents wrestling. I want to note that when going to investigate, there's a vase at the room's entrance, but anyways, the player then finds the same Tattletail in the washing machine with, like, no clue of how he got there. As a little kid, I would have never investigated a weird sound in the dark basement. I still probably wouldn't do it, frankly, but whatever. Now, we want to play with Tattletail again, and the helpful little taskbar tells us to find a vase to use. Playing with Mom's vase. Great. If you notice the vase at the basement's entrance, you'll also notice it's no longer here, though the game doesn't point it out. After finding the vase in another room, the player and Tattletail crack it while playing and the power goes out. You're prompted to pick up a flashlight as the taskbar says, "Oh no." A pair of glowing red eyes appears, and your flashlight goes out, while you're treated to the not ominous at all warning that some events and quote-unquote creatures make your flashlight go out. The player then wraps Tattletail, who says, "Mama, scary," back up into his box and goes back upstairs to the front door being pounded on, but there's nothing you can do to open. On night 3, the player investigates a grinding noise. A grinding noise in the dark basement. No, absolutely not. In the basement sits the now recalled Mama Tattletail, along with a cassette tape which can be played using the toy.
The children thought that Mama would never find them as long as she couldn't see them. Turn the page. But Mama could still hear the children. The pitter-patter of their little feet led Mama right to them.
The player returns upstairs to find that Tattletail has made a mess. God, this toy is awful. Tattletail asks to be taken to Mama. The player returns to the spot to find that Mama has disappeared.
Where's Mama?
And now hostile Mama Tattletail then starts to hunt down the player while they try to clean up after Tattletail. On night 4, you find Tattletail, and a yellow one, like a second one, in the garage. In the garage, which is like a separate building. Why are you going out there? You're a little kid. But after a lengthy and dangerous hide-and-seek session, the player finds another VHS tape that shows camera feeds from a Tattletail commercial. If you watch the whole video and don't alt-tab skip, a few of the camera feeds' names turn red, and trash bags and parts of still seemingly dead or struggling bodies appear. There's also a secret tape, by the way, if you get a certain ending and play again. The tape shows like the factory in the dark and a bunch of mamas getting free or something, maybe. I don't know. It's hard to explain really because the lore of this game is just so up for interpretation, and I will go into a whole thing on that later. But like every other night, you can also knock on your mother's door this night. But if you do so tonight, Mama, the toy, not your mama, will kill you. On Christmas Eve, Tattletail will come up to your room and wake you up. What the fuck? After picking him up, Tattletail will say that he wants to have a happy little party for Mama! Yay!
We're having a party for her Mama. Come help us.
So you need to get 2 more Tattletails, named Butternut and Dewdrop, I found out, by the way. So damn cute. After the player gets them, you need to pick up Tattletail and get some supplies from upstairs, which are cupcakes, lights, and candles. Next we go downstairs for the fun party, and oh my, infernal Furby circle jerk. Well, satanic panic aside, the Tattletails instruct you to rewind a VHS tape to kill/ban/something to get rid of Mama. After rewinding the VHS tape, Mama appears and takes the fucking candles. The player finds them in vases scattered around the basement while avoiding being attacked by Mama. We are breaking more vases, God help me! We put the candles back and the seance really gets going. The tape begins to levitate and the player must destroy it. The little cutie pie ritual then ends and the player goes back to bed. The phone also rings again, by the way, but only if you didn't pick it up before. It's a staticky, glitchy, pre-recorded message of a telemarketer talking about Tattletail. The endings. On Christmas Day, the ending you get depends on whether you collected all 22 eggs laid out across the game. If you don't get all the eggs, the gift box's bow comes off and the lid's position is ajar. The player then has to attempt to open it again, only to find the gift box is empty. Mama Tattletail then kills the player, implying that the ritual failed, ending the game and rolling the credits. This ending was the original canon ending, but is no longer the canon ending. The good one now is, it's confusing, I know. If the player manages to collect all 22 eggs, their present is the same baby-talking Tattletail the player received before. Tattletail then gives the player gifts, his birth tag and a golden flashlight. The player will then need to open the door of their mother's room and wake her up. The game ends with Tattletail saying thank you to the player, along with the player's mother yawning. There's also a joke ending if the player falls out of the map with Tattletail in their hands. Tattletail will glitch out and start saying that the player broke it. The game then ends and the credits roll. Although technically this ending was a glitch, it was given its own dialogue, so I included it here. This ending just returned you to the main menu with no progress, so it doesn't really count as an ending, but the credits do roll and there is official dialogue, so whatever. The Kaleidoscope DLC is the only major follow-up Tattletail ever received. In the free DLC, the player awakens on Christmas Day for a second time. They find their present, a purple baby talking Tattletail, but it looks a little different. It talks in a boring monotonous voice, and it glitches.
Old caterpillar. C-A-T.
At the front door, the player finds a package and an anonymous letter claiming that Tattletail wasn't like this, and this isn't how it happened at all. The player then gradually remembers one night back and has to play through each night again in reverse order, with the events and circumstances of the nights being similar, except Mama is now a friendly and caring character. Each night, quote-unquote, ends with a letter explaining that something went wrong, and the final letter explains that a place called the Kaleidoscope, where all memories are stored, is what's causing the changes. The player is then offered the choice to either go back to bed or enter the dangerous Kaleidoscope. Going to the Kaleidoscope results in the second quote-unquote good ending, in which the player will retrieve their memories. I think this one's the technical, full canon ending, but I'm not sure. Going to bed results in the quote-unquote bad ending, in which Tattletail will stay boring forever. In the Kaleidoscope, the environment looks like a glitched, warped version of the house, lit in a bluish tint. The player eventually finds a VHS tape with a letter saying that it must be played to restore the player's memories. It contains a slightly different version of the Tattletail TV advert that's a bit glitchy. Once the tape is played, Night 1 is repeated, with Tattletail restored to its cheery self, but something's missing?
Knock, knock. Orange.
That is the best jump scare setup. The player then needs to traverse back to the entrance of the kaleidoscope without being killed by Mama. After escaping, the player wakes up on Christmas Day again and opens the gift. Once it's open, Tattletail gives the player a present with a final letter that praises the player. It tells the player to say hi to Tattletail for the letter's author. After Mama's grinding sound is heard, Tattletail then tells another joke to the player by telling him, "Me love you," ending the game for good. The whole Kaleidoscope DLC is just so confusing and weird, and it adds to the fact that this game's lore is just so up for interpretation, but I love it. Since we have no idea what's really canon here, I just want to share the interpretation of all the lore that I'm going with for this video. It's compiled from a bunch of different community theories, but Waygetter Electronics. So, this company is almost definitely evil. I can't agree with most of the theories that don't have Waygetter being malevolent, but I'll mention the one I do kind of like in a bit. The original VHS tape commercial I like to interpret this way. The screens of the secret tapes say abort. They knew something could go wrong when filming that commercial, and it did, killing Waygetter employees, but they were prepared, and this didn't stop them from whatever nefarious things they had planned. The Way Drive. The Way Drive is, something that gives Waygetter toys their personalities, but how it works is a quote-unquote family secret. I'm going with the theory that these are souls. The dangerous toys may have only been few and far between and were intended to trap the children's souls, so that Waygetter toys would be more lifelike and sell better. Something to back this up is that some of the Tattletails are sentient, but not evil, as the Tattletails never try to hurt the player and sometimes even protect him. They're also a little stupid and ignorant, like a child, maybe.
Dinosaurs may look scary,
There's also the theory that
but
Waygetter
they are
didn't mean to
dead.
hurt anyone and they were just too good at creating the Tattletail AI, so Mama just became protective over her young. I do like this theory, in theory, but there's just so much evidence that Waygetter is bad. So if I believe this, I choose to believe she just became more aggressive. And maybe that's why the commercial went wrong and she turned on Waygetter employees? I don't know. There are just so many theories. But how did we get the deadly Mama if our Christmas present was baby Tattletail? The theory I like is that the mother of the child was a Waygetter employee. This is why we're in possession of the recalled Mama, 2 other Tattletails that are labeled as defective, commercial VHS tapes, and in specifically the Kaleidoscope DLC employee VHS tapes, all in our basement. Maybe the mom didn't know all the terrible things Mama Tattletail did, or maybe she was testing Waygetter's products on her own child willingly. Throughout the game, you can knock on your mother's door, but if you do so, nothing will happen. Despite all of the loud commotion in the house, she won't help her child. There's theories that Mama killed her, but in the canon ending, maybe she's alive. Maybe we weren't supposed to be. Following these theories, the Kaleidoscope DLC may take place years later and is the kid remembering Christmas 1998. His memories have been altered somehow by Waygetter Electronics. I don't really like most of the theories for how they did this, like kidnapping him and shit seems far-fetched, even for this game. Unless his mother was an employee, either to protect herself if she was purposely testing it on her child, or to save her child the trauma if she didn't know. Now, the letters. They seem to be from Waygetter as supported by their logos on the box. There's many theories, but there's 3 I can't really decide between, so here they are. Someone else went through this all and is trying to save us to avoid Waygetter detection by using their logo. This person would have, lost their memories as well, and gone through the horrors of Mama, and is now trying to get us to remember. It's us from the future who didn't successfully fix our memories trying to get it right this time, also trying to avoid Waygetter detection by using their logo. Or it's Waygetter themselves / Mom trying to extract information about what happened to us, and the Kaleidoscope is a trance created by them. Okay, wow, theories. I can make this video hours and hours on just theories, but that is not the point. So, here's why I think Tattletail is painfully underrated. Yes, Tattletail is another survival mascot horror game, using robots for children, coming to life, and killing people. But I think it just stands out. It's not another FNAF fan game like people write it off as, and I think it does what FNAF 4 specifically tries to do, but better. The juxtaposition of childhood nostalgia and horror is not unique, but Tattletail does it in a way that is just so fun. I also think the mechanics are, relatively unique. I couldn't really find a game from before it that works the same way. Yeah, it's exploration, survival, horror controls. But dealing with Tattletail and him not being malevolent, all of his different needs being scattered throughout the house, the way it all makes sense with the lore and you don't have to take gameplay features out of the experience for the story makes sense, I'd say that's something most games of its kind don't have going for them. The game is relatively short, but it makes such good use of its time to build tension and a great experience. The way bad things are set up to happen and just don't. And when you begin to let your guard down, they just do. Chef's kiss. I think if there had been more games or DLC past the Kaleidoscope, maybe there could have been more of a fan base, but There's something to be said about the simplicity. Yes, the lore is unconfirmed and up to speculation and hard to understand, but so is FNAF's, and there is just so much to that at this point. Starting from zero, it's just impossible to get into now. I mean, after each new piece of media is released, it changes what the common opinion of the lore is from every previous game, book, etc. But Tattletail is just that, Tattletail. And it's great. So Tattletail became something of a cult hit, but it never gained the mainstream recognition I believe it deserved. It lacks the massive marketing push or the high-profile developers or the long, complicated narratives, but it's so charming, and despite being a relatively unseeming concept in a stagnant market, even now, 7 years after release, it feels stand out. It's nostalgic for both the toys it takes inspiration from and the 2010s mascot horror boom it was born in. So, all this to say, despite the fact it will never happen, maybe another Tattletail game wouldn't be so bad. That and go play Tattletail.